Hola Marina, ¿cómo estás?
Pues fenomenal, Ben. ¿Tú qué tal?
Muy bien, gracias. We've got a lovely video coming up today, a subject close to our hearts, which is to do with bars. So we'll get into that in a minute. But first,
People are going to think that we spend our life in bars, and that's not true at all.
we don't spend nearly enough time in bars. We should spend more time in bars, but never mind, that's another story. So yesterday, I met up with one of our students, a really lovely guy called Lennart from Sweden, and we had a coffee in Lago by the huge lake to the west of Madrid, between Madrid and the Casa de Campo. Lovely terrace, we had a coffee, and at the end of the coffee, I called the waiter's attention and I said, "Nos cobras, por favor." And Lennart, who is a very astute student of real Spanish, said, what did you say there? You know, he asked, and I said, "Nos cobras" is a very typical way of asking for the bill here in Spain.
In a bar, not in a restaurant.
In a bar, yeah, not in a restaurant, in a bar. Thank you. And he said, you know, that he really loved learning these real Spanish expressions. And he said, you know, I love the real Spanish. And he came up with a couple that he'd remembered, which was ni fu ni fa y hablar por los codos.
Yeah.
Marina, what does ni fu ni fa mean? When would you use that?
When you are not really interested about something. Like, for example, ¿te apetece ver esta película? Ni fu ni fa.
Right, okay.
It doesn't call my attention.
Super good real Spanish. Or habla por los codos. Your codo is your elbow. What happens si alguien habla por los codos?
It speaks non-stop.
Right, okay. Like I'm doing right now. We're going to be hearing more from Marina in a minute. Estoy hablando por los codos. But anyway, he said that he had focused a lot on notes in Spanish, learning real Spanish, as well as learning from other systems as well. But he knew people who'd only kind of learned sort of very systematic, we'll call it app Spanish or textbook Spanish. And he said their Spanish sounded a bit boring and it was much more interesting to use these real Spanish expressions, which is why we're quite obsessed with them. Marina, why are we obsessed with real Spanish?
I think it makes the learning experience much richer. And it's much more interesting to speak like that.
Okay, if you come across somebody who's learning Spanish and they speak very textbooky Spanish, or if they come and say, Marina, estás
It's much more fun.
hablando por los codos, do you have a bit of respect for that person?
Yeah, of course.
As a Spanish speaker? Okay, so Andrea, another one of our students, asked us a question, said she's going soon to Barcelona on holiday and wants to know how to speak in bars and restaurants so she doesn't like a tourist, sound like a tourist. So I thought, great, this really fits in with what the conversation I had with Lennart, y me cobras or nos cobras, to get the bill. So we thought, what would we do today, Marina?
Yes, we'll go through some phrases, colloquial phrases that you use in bars, like maybe the more formal version and the colloquial version that people...
No. We've got a cause here, Marina. We want people to sound really good at Spanish and not sound kind of lost and touristy. So we're gonna be blunt about it. We're gonna call it touristy Spanish, or textbooky, appy Spanish, or real Spanish. Okay. Right?
We are going for the real Spanish.
We're going for the real Spanish. This is what a Madrid person says if they're in a bar, compared to what a sort of somebody who's learned more sort of boring version of Spanish might say, right?
Okay.
Okay, so the first thing is you walk into the bar, and if you're kind of, I'll be the touristy Spanishy person and you be the super, obviously the real Spanish person, right?
Okay.
So I might walk into the bar and say, hola. What would the Madrileño say, the Madrid born and bred person?
Buenas.
Buenas. Okay, much better. You want to get the waiter's attention, okay? So you've read in your textbook that you should say, perdone. What are they going to say here?
Cuando puedas, por favor.
Exactly. You raise your hand, not shy about it at all. Cuando puedas, por favor. When you're ready, I'm over here. Okay. The next one would be, you want to order a beer. You say, textbook version, quiero una cerveza, por favor. Or, una cerveza grande, por favor. So I want a beer or a big beer, please. And Marina would say,
Quiero una caña if it's a normal beer, which in Spain is quite small.
Sí, no, but no quiero, there's a much better way. Ponme.
Ah, ponme una caña o ponme un doble. Un doble is already a bigger size.
Big beer.
A big beer.
So una cerveza grande, no. In Madrid you say un doble.
Un doble.
There are regional variations.
Yes.
In other parts of Spain.
Learn. Yeah, and in other parts, caña, for example, I think is bigger than in Madrid.
Right.
So
you never know.
You never know. The sizes might be
they're
different.
going to understand you. Ponme is the essential bit, not quiero. You say ponme.
Ponme una caña, por favor.
It literally means put me a beer. And it's extremely colloquial, and you're going to fit in seconds, and the waiter's going to go, this person's probably been living here for years, if they speak like that. Okay, the next one. I'm going to check my list down here. Say you're with a friend, and your friend says, ponme una caña, por favor, right? Now, the kind of Spanish touristy person, Spanish might say, yo quiero una cerveza también, por favor. There's a much better way of saying this, which another of our students, Chris, reminded me of the other day.
Que sean dos.
Que sean dos.
So
now,
Ben says, ponme una caña, and I say que sean dos.
Right, make it two. Mm-hmm. Now, here you get double points because not only are you using a much more colloquial way of asking for another beer, much more real Spanish, but you're getting a subjunctive in there as well. Sean, from ser, que sean dos, make it two. So, very good. Okay, if you want a wine, a red wine instead of a beer.
Ponme un tinto, por favor.
Right. Touristy Spanish, yo quiero un vino tinto, por favor. Marina Spanish.
Ponme un tinto, por favor.
Ponme un tinto, no un vino tinto.
Well, you could say vino tinto too, but if you want to be like very colloquial and real Spanish, ponme un tinto.
Right. Now, by this point, you're a bit hungry as well. So, the tourist Spanish, ¿puedo ver la carta, por favor? Marina would say...
¿Qué tenéis de picar? O ¿qué tenéis para picar?
¿Qué tenéis para picar? Picar is like, have a little snack. And the waiter will tell you, well, tenemos croquetas, pincho de tortilla, and so on, no? Okay, maybe sometimes you've been around in Spain for a bit, you're used to the fact that when you get a beer, you're given some crisps or potato chips or some olives with your beer. And this time nothing's come. This happens quite often. You're like, hang on a minute, I've got my beer, I haven't got my aceitunas, my olives. How can you ask them, Marina?
¿Nos pones unas patatas, por favor? Or ¿nos pones unas aceitunas?
Right. The tourist version is to say nothing because you're shy and you think, oh, well, maybe in this bar they don't give snacks with their beer.
Well, maybe they will charge you.
And they might charge you. In some places they charge you, depends again on the region of Spain. The fact is, if you haven't got any and you want something to eat with your beer, don't be shy to ask for it. So,
exactly.
What was it again?
¿Me pones unas patatas, por favor?
Okay.
O unas patatitas. ¿Me pones unas patatitas?
Right, some chips in American English, chips in British English, some crisps.
Yeah.
Okay, you actually are a bit more hungry than that, and you actually want to know what's good in the house, in the bar.
In the bar.
Right, so maybe the touristy version would be, ¿cuál es la especialidad de la casa, por favor? But Marina would say,
¿Qué me recomiendas?
Right.
¿O qué nos recomiendas?
¿Qué nos recomiendas? What do you recommend? And the waiter will tell you, pues esto está muy bueno. Esto merece la pena. This is worth it. Okay, and finally, it's the end of the meal. And of course, the sort of more touristy version of Spanish would be la cuenta, por favor. But in a bar, you don't say la cuenta. Really, la cuenta is for restaurants.
Yeah, you could say it.
But it's less common, isn't it?
It's less common.
If you want to sound like you know what you're doing, what are you going to say?
Nos cobras, por favor.
Exactly, which is what I said with Leonard yesterday by the lake. And as an excellent student of real Spanish, I guarantee that Leonard is now saying me cobras or nos cobras. If you're on your own, me cobras. If it's more than one of you, nos cobras. I'm sure that Leonard's now saying that in bars around Spain, which makes me super happy. Marina, what can people do? Leave us a comment. What can they tell us?
They can tell you, we can,
you can.
You can tell us what would you like to eat in a bar in Spain? What would be your desired tapa or
drink.
Pincho or drink?
Yeah, if you want, you can even write it as if you were saying it in real Spanish. Ponme un tinto y un pincho de tortilla, por favor. You can put that in brackets if you like, or just tell us what's your favorite food and drink to have in a bar in Spain. So,
What do you like having in a bar, babe?
me,
¿Qué comerías tú?
pues a lo mejor hoy comería un pincho de tortilla y tomaría una caña, yo creo. ¿Y tú? ¿Qué?
Yo soy muy picky.
You're very picky. Tiquismiquis.
Tiquismiquis.
Muy tiquismiquis.
No soy muy tiquismiquis, pero en los bares, in the bars, I like to check out first what's the best option. So I would ask
¿Te gusta echar el ojo? ¿Se dice?
Yes, I would either check what is out and see what I like from what I see, or I will ask the waiter, ¿qué me recomiendas?
Yeah, Marina's always saying that. She's muy sabia, very wise, muy sabia, Marina, when in bars.
And when you go to a bar often, you usually know which is the best option for that.
Yeah, and you always
place.
have the same thing in that bar. Yeah. Okay. Bueno, pues eso. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, if you haven't signed up yet, then join our newsletter. There's a link underneath. You'll get our How to Get Fluent Fast report, which has got some great ideas to help you get really good at real Spanish very quickly. Y eso. Nada más.
Nos vemos.
If you know anybody who's going to Spain soon and you think that they need to hear this video to make sure that they sound really good at Spanish in bars, send it along to them as well. Hala. Adiós.
Hasta luego.